Hey everybody, welcome to South Bay Sit Downs. Adam Barteressian here. Get a chance to sit down with a couple former players of ours, Nick Molina and Sam Delaplane. Nick is a Wilcox High School grad, wound up having a real interesting recruiting story and going to the University of Tennessee Martin. From there, he actually transferred back home to Division II CSU Stanislaus. Former teammate of his with us at Cali and Trotsky, Sam Delaplane. Sam was a Lee High School grad, got his scholarship to Eastern Michigan, where he pitched there for 4 years and wound up getting drafted in the 23rd round by the Seattle Mariners. And then, as everyone else knows, we have Coach Tommy. Coach Tommy's here with us
What's going on, guys?
to help out.
Sam, Nick, how's it going?
Doing well. What's going on?
Good. How's this quarantine treating you guys? Any new hobbies? What are you guys doing new now that you have all this time at home?
Sam, what you got?
Let's see. I've been training my dog, and then I've been working out, throwing, and cooking and eating a lot. Nothing crazy. Watched a lot of movies. Been reading.
Nice. Sam, you're in New Jersey, right?
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey. I'm at my girlfriend's house in New Jersey.
Nice. How's the weather out there?
We had a tornado touch down about 20 minutes away yesterday, and then it was followed by 70 and sunny about 3 minutes after that. So
highs and lows.
Lows, the way it goes.
No, I'm in California, so I'm not getting that weather. I've been having it pretty easy so far. I've been studying. I got a couple more certs for my training. And looking up different, videos in ways I can help my clients or contribute to these guys at South Bay. So trying to stay busy, trying to avoid being bored. If I can train the dog, train him, but he's tough as well.
Nice. Cool. So Sam, I heard you talking about kind of your arm and kind of stuff that you're doing. I know you're not much of a driveline guy.
Correct.
And you have a different kind of method and kind of what you do. We talked to Mitch a little bit a couple of days ago. We talked to Mitch, and he's starting to dive into that. But I know that you're not that guy, and I just wanted to ask you on kind of your routine and kind of your beliefs and your methods that you use to help you kind of catapult your career.
Yeah, so we'll start with the weighted balls, driveline. So I do kind of their warm up in terms of reverse throws and the pivots. I don't do anything more than that. I'm not saying it doesn't work for me personally. I've done it twice now. It doesn't work for me. For me, I'm a big long toss guy, so I usually long toss. I get out to about 300, about 3-4 days a week. Now that might sound like a lot, but I'm really only pulling down on the way in, which about 2 times a week. And for me, that's kind of the biggest thing when you're trying to build arm strength and velocity is how far can you throw a ball on a line? If you can get the 300 feet and throw a ball on a line, you're probably going to throw pretty hard. It also puts your arm in the best spot in your strongest arm slot to reach your max distance. Your arm and body will naturally do that. Uses engaging your legs. Do you want me to go on the arm care at all, like post pre-throw?
Sure, man. Yeah, let's hop in.
Yeah. So pre-throwing, doing Jaeger bands every day. I know, do you guys have the J band routine? I'm pretty much doing the same one that I did growing up with you guys. A few more movements, nothing too crazy, but those are really specified to me and what my arm needs. Then post care, after every time I throw, I'm doing J bands again. Doing wise cheese W's with the weights. I'm taking the driveline ball, flicking it up right there, catching it, working on the internal, external, and then just some other miscellaneous stretches for my scap.
Hey, Nick, so what about you? Like, what would you give these guys as an idea, just some arm care, arm strengthening stuff, obviously with your background in medicine, sports medicine a little bit, go into that.
Yeah, I think, a lot of that stuff, the prehab, and prehab and rehab, I think a lot of times look really similar. And so to avoid, I think Sam hit it right on the head with the specificity. There's, I've been thinking about and putting together some general programs. But I think, for a guy who's going to go through, an arm care program, and I say, hit the weighted ball 3 times a week, and he does it 3 times a week for, let's say the duration of summer, and it doesn't work for him, that's not going to be something he could have better spent his time on something else. So I think YCWs, bands, There's plenty of shoulder stability work you can get just from various types of planking, especially for the younger guys. I think who may not be savvy enough or have the body awareness to use the weights, use the bands by themselves, use the weighted balls by themselves. If they can get stuff done, body weight, and recover and do it, as often as possible. I think those are the two big things. So I guess the question I had for Sam then is, what's your recovery like? You said you pull down, what you said, 3 times a week?
Twice a week I'm pulling
Twice
down.
a week. So yeah,
Yeah,
is that a recovery thing?
Recovery after I pull down?
Mhm. Like how long would it take you to fully recover and feel like you could pull down again effectively?
That's a good question. So it depends what part of the season. So like preseason, I guess off season when I'm building up, December, January, February, I'm pulling down 3 days a week. I'm doing a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday. I'm using that to recover so I can really make sure I'm getting my max intent pull downs Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
Now in season, it all kind of depends on how I throw. So I guess I can go into that being a reliever. I might go back to back. I might throw a pitch a day, have 2 days off, pitch a day off, pitch a day. So my routine for that would be, we'll call it day 0. So I pitch that day, and then the next day is day 1. So day 1, that day, I'm usually trying to recover. I'll get out to like 180 real lightly, probably won't pull down. I'll give a few max effort throws at around, 75 feet. Just kind of work on stuff that I need to that day, what's going on like in the pitching in the game. And then the next day, that's when I get after it. I'll get out to that 300 and I'll pull down because I know my arms had time to recover. I'm at the point in my career where I can bounce back and I know how to do it because of all the prehab and rehab stuff I'm doing, not on the field.
Yeah.
Does that satisfy your question? Or?
Definitely, yeah.
I would say, how have you kind of developed that routine over? I mean, obviously we talked about you guys starting young, from being a pitcher at a young age, going through high school, and I mean, high school you also played some other positions, but developing that routine, day in, day out, from being a young player now to being a professional.
Definitely trial and error. I'm really lucky, and I have to mention their names. So my training coach in Modesto, strength coach Mikey Sadler, and then our athletic trainer Taylor Bennett, they helped me formulate this plan, and it's kept me healthy, and it's really kind of been a career changer for me in terms of like making sure my arm's healthy and then being able to work on everything I need to at the same time. So it's really just been kind of feeling it out.
Yeah. And then Nick, even for you starting at an early age, I know that's something that we talked about.
Yeah.
Like, what are some things now, maybe that now that you wish you had known back when you started and you were a sixth grader in our program? What would be a piece of advice you'd give a little Nicky Mo?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that, and it's interesting because at sixth grade you're given all this information and the type of baseball you're playing, the brand of baseball you're playing. I guess I didn't really understand the significance of that to where I got to high school, and I was very unsure, and it took me a little while to realize that it was exactly the brand of baseball and exactly what I had been hearing for years already. And even then, with that being said, I went through it a little bit in high school, and I was like, oh man, I'm more prepared than these other guys. I'm working harder. I already have these these habits in place, and it took me a while to get through. But then I was like, oh man, this is so familiar and so comfortable. I've been doing this. And same thing in college. Really, I was still in the Cali Trotsky programs throughout high school. Getting to college then and being around some grown men, I kind of went through it again. I'm like, man, this is a whole different ballgame. But it's really not. So if I go back and tell myself one thing, I say baseball is baseball, and you're in the right place, and you're doing the right things. And if you take that with you just for what it is, you're going to be all right.
So tell us a little bit about the beginning of your career with us. I mean, not too much.
I won't give anything away. Yeah.
And I'm sure there's plenty of stories. We had Stevie Berman on last week, who was a member of the team with both of you guys. He had some stories, but tell us what it was like getting involved early. Because I know you started when you were about 12 or 13, and Sam, yep. I think you were right behind him, and we'll get into that with you in a second.
Yes, I jumped on to the elite team, the Cali elite team. Right around that time, and that was probably the toughest, hardest season or so that I went. It was hard. It was really hard. And we got our butts kicked, in the game. We got our butts kicked at practice, and it was hard. It was really hard. But I think that's kind of where it all kind of got some momentum for me, was because I was like, oh man, this is hard. And it's not always easy. It's not always very fun, but like I definitely wanted to be there, and I was like, there's something unique about this and something that I like about this. And yeah, the beginning was rough. It was really rough.
We talked about it. I think we won our first game and then dropped 20 plus in a row.
Yeah.
With a bunch of guys that wound up being Division I players. But at the time, it was rough.
There was multiple epic stretches of losing. But then I was thinking too, as more time passed, it was like, you can think about all the guys, you're like, oh, then this guy joined and he played, at this college. And then this guy joined and he's this D1 guy. And this guy plays for the Dodgers now. And all these guys, like, over time trickle in one by one.
So you needed Sam and Mitch to
we're just waiting for Sam. That's all. Yeah, we just needed Sam.
Well, Sam's a little bit different, right? Because Sam, your older brother, Brad, shout out Brad Delaplane, started with us, had been with us for maybe a season or two prior to you joining on. And then, you wound up hooking up with these guys and tell us that, kind of how that was.
That was kind of, when I described that team, kind of made me fall in love with the game more. We have what, 12, 13 guys on that team maybe? Is that about the right guess?
Yeah, something like that.
And we had 12, 13, 13, 14-year-old kids who just loved baseball and wanted to play baseball. That's kind of what it is. We all grinded. We're a bunch of grinders. Everyone put in a good effort, and just kind of was really I think that group became as good as it was because we all wanted to get better, and we kind of just elevated each other's game as the years went on.
Yeah,
so how many,
absolutely. Adding guys like, go ahead.
How many Division I commits on that? Not just that team, just that class. With all the guys.
If I look at our legacy team, every single person from that team ended up going to a Division I school from that team, except for one. They went to Dalton Bizzuti, who went to SF State.
Well, yeah, and played there. Yeah, I had a chance to catch there for a few years.
And how many pro guys?
Me, Mitch, Stevie, Cal Mini.
Might have been it.
Only 4, huh? Man.
I think we had there's at least probably one or two guys who trickled in, towards the end who
hung on for a little bit.
Yeah.
So in terms of talking about moving on, playing Division I baseball, being a commit, I know two different stories. Talking with Mitch and Steve, they both had different recruiting stories in terms of how they committed. Mitch obviously committing after Steve. Nick, you are probably the latest Division I commit, if not the history of the world. I would say definitely the history of our program. Why don't you go a little bit in detail about your commitment to UT Martin?
Yeah. So I was basically all set up to go to Occidental College in Southern California. Visited, talked with coaches, and watched them play. And I was like, okay. And at that point, it was late also. I want to say at that time it was probably spring because they're in season. And so, I go, nothing was really cooking for me, before that. And so I'm like, okay, this is a really good school. It was interesting because my baseball was actually going to get me into that school. I really had no business academic. I was a good student, no business academically going to that school. I'm pretty sure Barack Obama went to that school. And so, for me to get in because of my baseball, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And, the coach helped me out with that, got me through admissions. And time goes by and I play my senior season, and I'm just thinking about these games that I went to watch there. I'm like, okay, I'm playing competitive. I'm public school, but competitive high school baseball. I see my buddies going to all these schools, and I'm thinking to this baseball that I watched, and I'm like, I don't think that's it. And I don't think that's what I can do. And I freaked out, and I'm like, okay, well, now I know I don't want to go here. So what do I do? And so I call Vart, and I'm like, oh, he's going to be so pissed. And, I'm like, Vart, I don't want to go to the school. What do I do? And he was like, oh, you know what, man? Don't worry about it. It happens all the time. We'll figure it out. You'll find a JC and you'll get to go somewhere out of there. And I'm like, oh, that's it? He's like, yeah, that's it. And so I work out with West Valley over the summer, and I'm in their strength program. And, I'm already have a relationship with their coach. And so I'm working out, again, completely committed to play for them and go there. And then about, I want to say like 6 days before the first day of school, I get this, it was an email. It wasn't even called. It was an email. And UT Martin head coach says, hey, we had a guy drop. You've been on my radar. I've watched your videos that you've sent and that you've posted online. And, we got a spot for an infielder. Can you basically come like tomorrow, check out the campus, and we got a spot for you? And I'm like, all right. So, me and my dad, we fly out there, we look at it, and like 3 days later, I'm moved in.
Man, I remember, tell me, was that coach's name Bubba?
Bubba Cates, yeah.
Dude, okay. I remember that phone call with Bubba, thick Southern accent.
Oh, he was his Tennessee guy. Yeah, Bubba Cates.
Yeah. I remember that phone call from asking about Nick Molina. He said he liked your videos. I remember that. Specifically your defense. We had that conversation. I was like,
who knew?
well, if you like this defense, man, you gotta see this boy hit because he can hit. So if you like him on D, then you'll love him at the plate.
Yeah, no.
For sure.
They brought me in as a defensive replacement. It took me a while to get some at bats. I was just all gloved for a while.
But then for you, Sam, I mean, shoot, you were a guy for us. I still remember conversations with you. I mean, man, you were always successful in our program. Always, you were one of the guys that we always gave the baseball to when we needed W's. And the recruiting process was kind of going slow for you. I know you were always successful. You'd run out there and throw your innings and give us a chance to win ball games and do your thing. But give us an idea of what the day was like when you actually started getting, the first interest, because it wasn't necessarily your best ball game, right?
The day that I got all the interest was till this day, single-handedly the worst pitch day I've ever had in my life. Worst I've ever performed on a baseball field, at the plate, like any day ever. So I showed up, drove to Fresno to try out for the Arizona Showcase team.
The Fall Classic teams, yep.
Got there early, and I was supposed to go in the tryout. Then Nate Trossi comes up to me and says, hey, some guy can't pitch. We need another pitcher for an inning. Do you want to pitch? So obviously I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I warm up. I faced 8 batters. I walked 7 of them, and the one guy didn't walk, hit a bases clearing double off the wall against me. So after, I'm sitting there obviously angry, and then I have all these coaches calling me and texting me, like coming up to me after, and then texting me and calling me on the ride home, telling me I pitched great. I'm like, did they even watch? Like, they haven't mistaken with another kid? And then I remember I called you, and then you told me I hit 90 for the first time, and I was throwing like 87, 89, and I was just like, what the heck is going on? Because I remember I had pitched well at showcases before, like much, much better, maybe throwing 85, 86, and got no love. And that was like kind of the first time anybody showed any interest.
I remember that started the whole saying here is just get outs, man. Just continue to get outs, and good things will wind up happening.
No, absolutely.
And so for you, Nick, you spent your first year, your freshman year at UT Martin. If I'm not mistaken, you two boys played against each other your freshman year when Sam was at EMU?
Yeah, I stole a bunch of bases off Sam. I was a base runner too, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they brought me in a pinch run. Sam's up there. I'm like, oh, if I can hit off this guy, then I got his timing for base running too. Yeah.
So did you get a bat? You got an at bat off of Sam? Or
No, they just wanted to see me run. They just wanted to see me score, so they put me in on the bases. Yeah.
I'm sure Sam was like, "What are these guys doing?"
Yeah, they're like, "What?" This guy?
But after that, right? Well, after your freshman year, Nick transferred out, right? Wound up coming back home.
Yeah, so we had
at home at least.
Yeah, we had a coaching change through the summer, basically. And so there wasn't going to be a lot of athletic money around. I didn't know anything about who they were going to bring on. They didn't really make that, clear to us. And so I basically started as soon as I could in looking for, another option. And, having been around all these D2s in California, I knew they're good. It's good baseball. And so I contacted a few of the schools in that conference. Stanislaus was one of them. That still had some athletic money. And so I met with the coaches, and that staff was a bunch of really good dudes. And I had a really good time there. And honestly, I think that in terms of the baseball was actually really similar. The pitching was similar. The competitiveness was very similar. And of course, in D2, you don't have stadiums you're playing at. But, other than that, the baseball itself, I didn't feel like I had missed anything. And the transition was seamless.
And then for you, Sam, I mean, shoot, going from EMU, getting drafted by the Mariners, it seems like a pretty perfect fit, right? They're pretty into the analytical side, into the Rapsodo, and all that. And you've always been kind of a cerebral pitcher and like to get as much information as you could. So tell me how that transition from college to pro ball worked out for you.
Went a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be honest. Competition's good. You make mistakes, you're gonna have to pay for it, especially as you go up. But, in terms of the analytics, it's kind of baseball's changing. And if you're not kind of up to par with the changes, and you're gonna fall behind. So, learning how to use a Rapsodo, like I don't want someone to just tell me what to do and give me the information. It kind of goes for more than just analytics for players in the whole entire career. Ask questions. You want to know everything that's going on in terms of when you get to that point, analytics. Like for guys who are going to be working out there and they're working with Nick, working out, ask him questions about what those movements do. But back to the transition. It's definitely tougher. You're throwing a lot. I'm throwing way more often in terms of days of the week just from that. So that was the first kind of barrier I had to overcome, obstacle. Was trying to refigure my throwing program like we talked about. And then from there, just the level of competition is just drastically better.
Like what are some things that you've learned from the analytics, from a Rapsodo being, throwing your bullpens and stuff, or even the TrackMan data that you're getting, some things maybe you learned about yourself as a pitcher that you hadn't known before?
Mm-hmm. So my whole life, I'd always try to throw two seams. I've never been able to make a ball do that. Been terrible at that. I was trying to throw changeups. So what the analytics told me was that my two seam might be the worst pitch in professional baseball behind my changeup. So kind of where my career kind of took off is they used that to tell me stop working on these pitches because they're terrible and get really good at what you do, which is throwing a four seam with induced vertical ride, so riding a fastball. So get really good at doing that. Try and make it move left and right as low as possible, but as straight as possible. And then with the breaking ball, they just kind of told me to refine it. It was a little sweepy. I want it more like up, down. So it was more kind of refining my stuff to be the best version of what it was. And then them telling me where to throw those pitches.
So your breaking ball, because this was a topic of conversation with Berman and White. What do you classify it as?
Ooh, I think it's curveball.
Yes.
I still think it's curveball.
Yes. I'm going to say this to Steve Berman because we had a little bit of it was a disagreement on our last South Bay sit down. He said you called it a slider. He was giving me crap because he said I could never teach him to throw a curveball. I'm like, Mitch's isn't bad, Sam's isn't bad. What's your problem? But now we get it. It is a curveball.
Yeah, it's curveball. Everyone calls it a slider. So when people ask me like, "Oh, how do you throw your slider? What are you doing with your slider?" I'm just like, I would say it's a slider. But if you ask me personally, I'm like, it's a curveball.
It's a curveball. So when you signal it, you signal curveball or you signal slider, glove signal?
Curveball.
See,
Curveball.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
So Sam, we had one of our older coaches, Jeff Gingrich. He set an NCAA record throwing 20 innings, complete game, or 20 innings in a 1-1 tie. And I remember you telling me a story that like you threw X amount of pitches or X amount of innings, and I want to say it was something. It wasn't that crazy, but it was pretty close.
You're talking about in college or in?
Yeah, in college. Yeah, not in pro.
Let's see.
Definitely not for us. Hold on. And definitely not for us.
Not us.
No, for you guys, I would just throw 4 innings the first day on first game Saturday, and then throw 6 the last game Sunday.
Cut that.
I mean, I got nothing. I gotta call Josh Cruiser on that one.
No, but let's see. My senior year, I went 136 pitches, 8 innings against Buffalo, followed by 124, 9 against Ohio the next day, followed by 127, 7 against Western Michigan, and topped that off with 146 against Kent State through 8. Then 5 days later in the conference tournament, which I thought that was my last time playing baseball, that's what I didn't care about, I threw 156 pitches in the first game against Western Michigan.
So you had to have thrown a lot of two seams and changeups to get
I was still
156.
throwing 2 seams and
Imagine
change.
if you hadn't thrown any changeups, it would have been like 90 pitches.
It might have been a lot better if I was just going forcing curveball. But
Had you known, you would have CG'd all those probably under 100. Because, looking at Tom and I were just, I'm not going to lie, I went and tried to dig up some dirt on both you guys, and it wasn't as easy as it was for Mitch and Steve. But, I mean, just finding just numbers out, like pure numbers, Sam punched out like 46% of the hitters you faced during the summer last year. And then there was a little quote about, like basically, hey, I don't try to strike guys out. And, I won't try to repeat it, but it sounds like a lot bigger difference now from college to pro ball. Throw 156 in 9 innings is quite a bit.
yeah, it was a lot of pitches.
So what are the most consecutive days you've thrown for the Mariners?
Just 2 in a row. Yeah, I haven't gone
Strict
through.
policies about that? Are they
Yeah,
pretty
they're-
strict about no 3 days in a row?
Yeah, they're pretty strict, and to a sense. So, like, they try not to do it. If the situation comes up, they will. I did in Modesto a few times because our starting pitchers, we had a stretch where they were really struggling for about 6-7 days in a row every start. So some of us had to go back to back, but they try and give you a blow. But then when I got to AA, it was kind of like if you had to go back to back, you would. But it really didn't happen that often because our bullpen there was incredible. There's 4 or 5 guys I played with in that bullpen that got called up to the big leagues at some point during the season, and then everyone else was also just really good. So,
And that was in AA, right? Who was your manager there? Was it Canham?
Mitch Canham. I saw he was my manager for 3 days. Then he got the Oregon State job. Then it was
Okay,
season.
that's right. That's right. So Tom, I know. So I don't know if you guys had seen Steve and Mitch's conversation, but Coach Tom is finishing up all these with a South Bay 6-pack of questions. Answer them as openly and honestly as possible. Coach Tommy,
Yeah.
let it fly.
Pretty light. Let's get intense questions here, boys. So we'll start with you, Sam. Your favorite pregame meal?
Favorite pregame meal. Well, I don't really get a choice because it's kind of what the spread is that
Okay.
day.
So which one's the favorite one they give you then?
I mean, we have meatballs all the time, so I guess it's got to be meatballs and rice. It's kind of what it
The
is.
Dodgers are giving out guac and toast, and
Yeah, the Dodgers get Whole Foods catered. The Mariners do a really good job, but we don't have the same finances as the.
yeah, they're bragging about how the Dodgers are giving some good food. So wanted to make sure I asked you the same question. Nick, what about you? When you were playing, what you got?
So I will say as a part of my best stretch, like when I was the hottest I ever was, I was having these, those like breakfast little prepackaged pastries.
Yes.
The cheese horn.
Oh.
I'd go cheese horn before the game. It's got a bunch of doubles in it. You'd have a decent game in the field, maybe kick just 1 or 2. But the cheese horn was where it was at.
Love it. All right, well, Nick, here, right back to you. The last 3 songs that you played on your phone.
I'll tell you right now, I got it handy. I've been on the oldies. So I'll go the last 3, Night Moves. I don't know if you know Night. You're going to have to turn back the hands of time for these. Night Moves, Unchained Melody.
Who sung Night Moves?
No, the song, Night Moves. You'd know it if you heard it.
By who?
Oh, by who? Vital Fire.
Okay.
No chance.
Unchained Melody, the Righteous Brothers.
Okay.
And we got some Boys to Men.
Which song is that?
Oh, End of the Road, of course.
Okay.
Are you working out to the end of the road? You can't listen to that song at a time like this.
No, but sometimes you got to be in the right space to really dig deep. So yeah, for the workout, I'll go there.
Awesome. Sam, now your turn. You got some time to think and hear his stuff.
Good.
What do you got, Sam?
Yeah, sorry. Let's see. The last time I was on the Ox was Monday,
Okay.
just squad day. So we do Motley Crue Mondays with a bunch of the guys I played in the bullpen with in Modesto. So it ranges from Motley Crue to Metallica.
Okay. So some rock.
Yeah, hard rock. Let's see.
They're
We
getting
got
hardcore, way more hardcore compared to mine.
yeah.
Yeah. Ben doesn't
Have
have anything on that.
go back. Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue.
Okay.
Four Horsemen by Metallica.
Ooh.
And then Dreams by Fleetwood Mac.
There it is.
I made it on there. Not a really motivated song.
Sam, we're staying with you right here on this third question. The weirdest superstition you've seen or done, whichever one you want.
Jack Anderson, guy I play with in AA. This guy is a robot. Okay. He only throws on the left mound. He's submariner, so we'll start with that. Only throws on the left mound. Every time he gives up a home run, he gets a new pair of cleats. He's only got one home run in professional baseball. So the last pair of cleats he had before the ones that he got this year were like to the bone. He drinks a 16-ounce Red Bull before every pitch. No one else can be on the mound, one ball on the mound, and he chews 2 pieces of juicy fruit. And he behind the mound, he puts them perfectly. It's like water cup, Red Bull, juicy fruit. And 2 shuffles every time before he enters the game. Always wears a sweatshirt in the bullpen. We're in Arkansas. It's like 110 degrees, bunch of humidity. If you had a chance to ask Stevie Mitch, I'm sure they know who he is. And he's just sitting there in a sweatshirt, just taking it. In our bullpen, we had no shade. He's just sitting there wearing it, rips it off, and he's already sweating. And just goes in the game and dices.
Love it. Nick, what you got here?
So this is probably in the worst of times now. I would go and I would put a piece of gum in every at bat that didn't end how I wanted it to. So if you have a double header and you have a bad day, you have 10 pieces of gum in your mouth. And it's just reminding you that you had a bad day, just huge right there. So it wasn't the best superstition. But yeah, I did that for a while.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So I want to hear for your favorite road trip, Nick, whether in Tennessee when you're over there or whether you're at Stanislaus.
Yeah, it was definitely in Tennessee. We drove from Tennessee to Texas. We played Stephen F. Austin there. I got my first start at Stephen F. Austin. We played in front of a hostile Texas crowd. On our way back, we're supposed to play Arkansas. And we show up, we're dressed, and the field was frozen over. And so we get out, and we're like, all right, let's go. And, coach says, all right, get the stuff, get off the bus. And we get off the bus, and it's just frozen, and no one else is there. And so our coach calls, and he goes, what's going on? And he goes, oh, yeah, field's frozen, no games. So we just load back on the bus, and we drove back to Tennessee. We got home at 2 a.m. We ran out of gas, the whole thing. But that was our spring break.
Oh, that was the spring break. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's your best or your worst?
Well, it's the most memorable. Yeah, for sure.
That's both.
Yeah.
Okay. Sam?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and try and one-up Nick on the worst road trip of all time there. So it is my senior year. We drive an hour and a half to East Lansing to play Michigan State. Lose 12-2. Not fun. Game took forever. It's 7 o'clock. From there, we drive 11 hours to West Virginia for a midweek game, right? So, yeah. No, wait. We went to West Virginia first. I'm sorry. Played a midweek game there. The day we got there, the hotel was heat only. Or AC didn't work. So we're just sitting there baking. We play them. We lose 16-1. Then we drive to Michigan State, lose 12-4. And then from there, we had to drive 10 hours back to Buffalo, to which it was 25 degrees there.
Oh man, no, that's a rough one. We talked to Gabe Rivas earlier on in the week, and he said that his worst MLB road trip was to Clinton.
Oh boy, yeah. Let me tell you about spending a whole year in Clinton, Iowa. So, yeah, I'm gonna start with a disclaimer. I had a great time in Clinton because my teammates are great. The head coach is great. Now, Quinnen is where I lived. I lived probably 50 yards from the Purina dog food factory. So the whole entire town smells like dog food. Like, terrible. There's like nothing to eat there. All they have are like mom and pop diners that close at like 8. So like if the post game spread was bad and there really is not that many options there, you like can't eat anything. There's like a Walmart that everyone in the whole entire town hangs out at. Now in terms of the field, so we had a really good groundskeeper and he was diabetic, so we had to get his leg removed. And then they just didn't bother to hire a new groundskeeper, so our field went to crap. The opposing minor league locker room is, let's see, about the size of the coach's office at your guys' facility. That includes lockers and showers. Like, that's how big it is. And then they have this thing called mayflies because there's a river right behind left field, like 100 yards behind. It's actually, I think it's the Mississippi River or Missouri River. And so there's mosquitoes all the time. They have these mayflies, and while you're pitching, they'll land on your face and all over your jersey. Like the field's like covered in yellow because that's the color they are. It's something else.
That's what Gabe was saying. Gabe said there was enough mosquitoes there to pick you up and fly you off if you really wanted to.
Yeah, pretty much. It's tough.
All right. Now the last one. So yeah, we kind of mixed the question 4 and 5, the best and the worst. So I think we figured out those answers. Now the last one I want to ask you guys is I want to know your craziest Adam Vardaressian story. It's not even a question.
I want to
That wasn't a part of this.
Going off the charts.
So my favorite Vart story.
Oh, he's ready too. Sam's ready.
Oh yeah,
He like dug in. He dug in for this one.
This is actually a compliment to Vart in a sense. Maybe not. More of a stupid thing he did. So I think probably 14, 15 at the time. Danny Rose went to my high school. Yeah, was in the program. And Danny's a funny kid. He likes to run his mouth a little bit. So he was talking smack to Vart. And Vart said, "Danny, I'll barehand your fastball right now."
Yep, I remember that.
And then he goes, "What?" So then he gets on the mound and Vart sits there, no hands. Danny throws a fastball, catches it with his bare hand, fires it back at him. This kid's like defeated. It's like goes back into the I think we're at Valley. Like goes back into the like their locker room. He's shaking his hand.
You gotta hide it.
90% of that was true. 90% of that was true.
Yeah, he barehanded his fastball, and it was a pretty firm fastball too. So,
What you got, Nick?
So I'd say mine. One I remember, I think it was pretty early on. It might have even been on the elite team, and I was a pretty reserved kid, pretty quiet kid. And there was one. I was on the mound. We got walked off, and I tossed my glove. And I'd never probably done something like that before. And my parents, were like, "What are you doing?" My dad's all mad at me. But Vart, he was like, I thought Vart was gonna be mad, and he was like, I kind of dig that. He's like, I need to see more of that. And I was like, all right, well, okay, my parents are pissed, but Bart's cool with it, so I guess I can, find a happy medium. But I remember him being like surprisingly cool with it and being like, yeah, that's all right, gotta do what you gotta do.
So yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend future players testing me on that. I would just say, but yeah, Nick, I mean that was probably the most emotion I had seen from Nick Molina at that time, who was like stone cold killer at all times, and then all of a sudden there was a glove toss, probably part of our 20-something game losing streak.
Who knows?
So we were all
19.
tossing stuff. Everybody was throwing stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it was a glove, and it didn't make a loud sound. I get it. Tom, I can't wait till we start getting some of your players on here, man, because you're getting me pretty good.
I'm not that old yet, baby.
All right, guys. Hey, I really appreciate you guys taking the time with us. Hopefully we get a chance to check back in here and get with you guys soon. But hope you guys are well. Tell your families I said hello for sure.
All right.
Touch base
Will do.
soon.
Good talking to you guys.
Good to talk to you guys.
Later.